Hey everyone, hopefully having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities. We'll take a look at the dollar, yields, precious metals, and the commodities and ETFs that I follow. I'm going to give you my financial opinion across the board. And if you guys need help with anything, definitely check out finding-value.com. Become a platinum member. We do have a platinum question and answer session Saturday, 7 a.m. And you guys can ask me anything you'd like. And I'll give you my opinions on it. I can't do advice. I can't tell you advice or anything like that, but you can see what I'm doing. You can see my opinions. You can see what I'm looking at, the charts, and the market conditions that I'm paying attention to and what I'm doing. So let's dive in here. We've got the DXY. Again, overall, I think the DXY will go lower, and we got a lower day today. The DXY, again, it tracks the relative strength of a currency. And what we've seen over the past couple of years is the strength of the currency is tied to yields. So it seems like if a tighter monetary condition occurs under the dollar versus these other currencies, the dollar wants to go higher. That's the market conditions that I look for. If the currency of other ones outside of the dollar have stronger monetary conditions, and the dollar loosens its monetary conditions, the yield, so to speak, the dollar falls, generally speaking. What we see here today is a decline in the dollar. And since commodities are priced in dollars, and remember this, they're priced in dollars in the absolute value. We're looking at the relative strength here. But the relative strength is dropping against those other currencies. It kind of gives us an idea of where we are, perhaps, in a cycle. Under a inflationary cycle with increasing interest rates, this kind of goes up. You get a turnover. The dollar starts losing its relative value against other currencies because other currencies' monetary conditions tighten. And right now, I think that's where we're at. Other currencies are tightening, and we're kind of loosening up on our yields a little bit. So when we look at yields, the 10-year yield is falling 0.38%. Again, I want to know if we're going to break down or if this is going to break back to the upside. If we see oil remain very resilient, I think we're going higher. If we have lower, there could be a time where we go sideways for a while and then get through summer and then this falls. That could be a potential possibility. We could go up a little bit before heading a little bit lower. But again, if there's fear in the market, this will drop. If there's not fear in the market and inflation comes back, perhaps from oil or the supply of oil and commodities. So supply shortages higher, fear down. And that fear can be driven by the banking system. It can be driven by whatever it is. Slowdown, recession, whatever that is. And the 30-year slightly higher today, up 0.88%. So we saw the 10-year fall. We saw the 30-year go up. That is an uninversion of the curve. So gold likes that. But what I'm looking for, are we going to see a downward move in yields where there's a scare in the market or fear? That is a completely different market condition than an inflationary market condition with increasing interest rates. Certain assets thrive under those market conditions, while others do not thrive as much or go down. Bond prices are right at a critical spot, right at support resistance. Where are we going to go here? And the markets are going to figure that out here over hopefully the next few weeks or months. We'll find out which direction that is. The TYX-TNX ratio, it is up today. Generally, when this goes higher, you see some commodities do very well, especially gold and precious metals. So precious metals did incredibly well during this run here from July of 2018 all the way to the peak of August of 2020, which was the peak here. Oil and uranium did very well on this move lower, which was very inflationary and was an inversion of the yield curve. Now we're coming back, very low point. We could come back up higher. signaling that precious metals would be the asset of choice. The 2-year yield did fall today. That's another one I've been watching. This does look like it could potentially head lower. But again, we got to see where this thing is going. Usually what happens is when you slow down, your green candlesticks get real small in size. And then you'll get an original first impulse move lower off of very strong selling pressure, which is basically what we have. So this is basically, I think, putting in a shoulder, head, shoulder. There's the other shoulder there. So is something like this going to play out where yields fall back down to where they broke out? Maybe. That could be a potential move here where we go back up, we get strong oil for a little while, and then it would fall back down to the long-term trend. Then from there, I think we are going to turn and move higher. We have to flush some crap out of the system, so to speak. CRB index is still looking quite strong here. We've moved on up. There we are moving on up. Nice, good impulse move higher. We've broken out of that resistance line to the upside. This actually looks quite good for the CRB index, and that could continue higher. The CRB to S&P 500, commodities are starting to put some sort of floor or base around here, and we could see this move higher. Is wave 3 going to start here? It very well could. So let's monitor it and let's see what happens. Gold up 11.9. We do have a little bit of a wick at the top. There's some selling pressure up here, but we're coming towards all-time highs. Usually get a little bit of selling pressure up here. So we'll see how this thing plays out. I don't know if we're going to come back and do a little retest before heading higher. I don't want to try to predict the path. I just think that we're going to go higher over a period of time, over 6 months to a year. Silver also higher, confirming our view that gold and silver could go higher. Look at this move here. Now, we've had a very large move here. We could get a pullback at some point, or maybe not. Maybe we just continue to rip it. But it looks very bullish from $20 all the way up to $25. Platinum also crushing it today, up 2.7%. Very strong candlestick. I like platinum a lot. Platinum is incredibly cheap. If we hit an inflationary type environment, or just precious metals like to go up in general in this type of environment, we get a weaker dollar. Platinum could do very well along with silver and gold. And what I like to see, this is another thing I really like to see. I like to see outperformance of gold and silver mining companies in relationship to the commodity itself. We want to see this continually grind higher over time. I mean, it doesn't have to go higher every single day, but we want to see it work its way towards this resistance line, break through it, and work our way higher. That is the roadmap to, we'll say, a lot of wealth generation for gold and silver mining companies. So we haven't broken it out yet, but we're making good progress, and hopefully that progress can continue to the upside there. That is what we want to happen. GDX up 0.98%, outperforming gold itself, which was up 0.6%. It's doing good. It's holding in there. Let's hope it keeps continuing higher. And SILJ is up 1.5%. This guy's starting to wake up. We've broken out of this downtrend kind of consolidation area, starting to move higher. We're working our way through a lot of resistance. It's looking quite good. So go SILJ, way to go. Now, crude oil's up 2.7 or 2.07%, about 2%. It's getting through that $82 area, and it's closed at $83.22. A lot of people are going to say, well, that's great. Let's see this thing roll. The only concern I have here is, how come XOP isn't joining in? How come the crude oil companies are not jumping on board here? At least the small mid-cap ones. Is this move legit? Is this a false breakout? Are yields going to continue higher? Are they going to go lower? There's a lot of uncertainty in the markets at this exact time. What I'm doing is I'm not really doing much of anything. This looks really good for a move higher for crude oil at this time. I'd like to see if we can stick the landing here and stay above 82 for a week or two. And I'd like to see XOP wake up. I mean, what is it doing going down 0.82% today with crude oil going up 2%? How come the participants are not believing in this move? The exploration production companies. So it looks good from a crude oil standpoint. Natural gas down a little bit today. This thing's it's putting in a base, guys. I think natural gas is a good spot to be looking for a very patient investor. It may take some time to base out and work its way higher eventually. XOP, yeah, you know me, it's getting some selling pressure. What the heck, guys? Are we going to see a move lower here, even though crude oil is going higher? That generally shows weakness. So this is all data information. You can see the trend line here, a hit there, a hit there, hit there, hit there. And then we broke through it to the downside. And usually what you have to watch out for is you get a return move back to the breakout area, and then you sell off. We do have candlesticks here of a bearish engulfing and a bearish piercing, which are signaling that we could be heading lower in the short term against a resistance level. So I have to remain bearish even though crude oil looks bullish, because the chart here is saying that they're selling off XOP into a resistance level. So it makes me think that we're not going to break higher. It makes me think we're going to go down in the short term. OIH, you're only up 0.58% on a crude oil day of 2%. When we were back here moving to the upside, we would see oil slightly lower, but yet we're ripping to the upside here. So either we've got more consolidation maybe perhaps to go, or we've got another setup or leg lower, and this is not this is a continuation flag pattern to the downside, which is very well possible. So that's the negative side that I see, is that I don't see OIH and XOP following along with crude oil move. We've got the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust. Again, we're getting some selling pressure today a little bit. It's up 0.5%, but it's sold off throughout the day. We've got a bearish engulfing here. It's a battle in this little circle here, but we came from the top side down. So generally speaking, is this a continuation pattern where we're going to go sideways and then break to the downside eventually? I don't know, but we're still above support. And what we're watching for is which way are we going to break? Because we've got resistance here, we've got support, and we're squeezing up into the corner here. And I would say if we saw yields, if we were in an inflationary environment and yields were going higher, I would say this is probably going to move on up. If we see that fear in the markets and yields dive, which they started with that strong selling pressure with the banking crisis, the two banks that went, had problems, this could still go lower. We're kind of in that indecisive period. It's like we threw up once and we feel better after the throw up, but we know we're going to throw up again. So that's kind of how I feel where we're at this time. URNM, I don't see this thing rocketing higher. It's been a battle here. We don't see large up candlesticks that dwarf the downside selling pressure. I would say there's stronger selling pressure in this circle here than there is buying pressure, because we moved more distance in fewer days lower than we did it took coming back up. So the sellers are still there. I can see that. And I think if yields puke and we have a fear event, I think we could see some selling pressure still. TAN down a little bit. We got that bearish engulfing that does look like it wants to go lower, but this has been swapping back and forth between buying and selling pressure in this gigantic area. It doesn't know where to go. And I could say that across the board. The stocks don't know where to go. We're coming to a decision point and they haven't made a decision yet. They don't know where to go. COPX moving higher. This actually looks good. Not today, but it looks good that we broke to the upside. So COPX looks good. Lithium's throwing more of a selling pressure candlestick, which is a bearish engulfing, which generally heads lower. And we're up against resistance here. So we're up against resistance. I would be thinking that we're going lower for LIT after this candlestick here. REMX also getting a little bit of selling pressure, not as bad as LIT. We'll see where that thing actually ends up going, but we're playing with the bottom trend line. It makes me think we want to go lower because we've been playing with this bottom trend line for a while. SPX, another bearish engulfing. It looks like it wants to head lower. We have not made a higher high. We need to get through that. NASDAQ also putting in a bearish engulfing, which makes me think we could head lower. Is this kind of a double top where we're going to head on down? Be a Batman pattern. Very well could be. We've got emerging markets also throwing a bearish engulfing, which could head a little bit lower in the short term. We do look good from the standpoint that we've broken this downtrend line. And we've got support from this other lower trend line coming on up. If we get a weaker dollar, this could head higher. We've got XHB just moving sideways with the home builders. It gapped higher and sold back off to the downside. So momentum's to the downside. We've got MOO moving sideways. It's not really a bullish setup. We've got contraction on your candlesticks moving higher. So it's getting smaller, smaller, and smaller, which is slowing momentum. And it took less days to go down, and then we didn't come up all the way to the peak here, so this could roll over. We've got copper here, 0.82%. It was heading up. Copper's been super resilient. We're above the support level. That still looks good. Lumber still above support. That goes back to the mid-90s. Up 0.6%, still hanging in there. Iron ore just moving sideways. Again, I don't really have... Now, this looks good. That definitely is going to work higher over time, even if we do a retest back. Still think it's going to head higher. Nickel up 1.25%. It's starting to get a little bit of buying pressure here. That looks a little bit better. Aluminum up 1%. Looks like it's trying to put in some sort of bottom here. Eventually, you can just see that we're basically coming sideways. And watch those lows. Your lows are higher than this low, so that's good. And it looks like it's trying to put some sort of bottom in. Baltic Dry Index, yeah, it came down a little bit today, down 3.4%. Still looks fine, though. Still looks good to go higher. Newcastle Coal, I think just give it some time. We'll see if the candlesticks contract. If they contract down where the opening and closing prices get real close to each other, you'll just get a little contraction, and then I think it'll try to work its way on higher. Ethereum up 0.88 or 0.86%. Still looks good. And then Bitcoin down a little bit. Still looks good to move higher, though. It's not a reversal candlestick. So that's what I see in the markets today, guys, overall. The markets, it doesn't have a clear direction here in the short term. We do still see selling pressure in the charts. That's what those big candlesticks, you're getting some reversal bearish candlesticks to the downside. Bearish engulfings is what they're called, where it engulfs the candlestick before it, and it could potentially head lower. So that's what I'm seeing with these charts. Gold and silver look really good. That's probably the best looking sector of the bunch. It doesn't mean that it can't have a pullback in the short term. It just means that given how it is reacting, GDX, SILJ, all those, in relationship to the commodity itself, it makes me think that people are accumulating the precious metals, gold and silver mining companies. And we could see downside pressure in oil, natural gas, because they're not buying the companies themselves, but although the commodity is going up. I will say sometimes the exploration production companies lag the commodity itself. So sometimes if people are not convinced that the commodity is going to go up, they don't put their money in XOP or OIH. They could be wrong, and then the commodity starts to rocket higher, then people are like, oh crap, it's actually a legit move, and then they run into the exploration production companies and energy service companies. Other times, the move is a false move in the commodity. People don't buy the stocks. They rotate into something like gold and silver, which is it works well under a different market condition. And that's the spot to be, while the other one could fall in the future. So I would say risk-wise, I think gold and silver is probably a lower risk opportunity here based off of what we're seeing in the markets. Although the markets, I'm sure, could be convinced if oil and natural gas go high enough and bottom, and that the demand is not being destroyed, supply and inventory levels continue to fall, we could see oil take off as well with exploration and energy services. But right now, the markets are not believing the move in oil commodity. But that could change at any second. And if you guys are interested in knowing how this is changing, definitely subscribe to the channel here, and we'll go over it together on a daily occurrence. If you guys need any help with, finding companies, or if you have questions about the markets, you can obviously join the website. You can use the word discount in the coupon code, and you can ask me questions. But that's what I've got for today. That's all I've got. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the clip. Give me a thumb up, subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you guys next time. This is Finding Value.